What is up, everybody? Chris the Dice Degen here on Casino Gaming TV, bringing you the daily wager for Tuesday, April 4th. Hope everyone's having a great Tuesday. It's Masters Week. It's Masters Week. I said it yesterday. I'm going to say it again today. One of my favorite weeks of the year. I love the Masters. If you guys don't know, I'm a big golf fan. Was a golfer. And tomorrow's show will be breaking down the Masters, what it is, who I like to win. Not a predominantly strong golf better. I don't bet golf a ton, but you guys asked for it, so don't worry. Degen dove in. A lot of research went through it, and I've got my show planned for tomorrow, and got some bangers for you. All right, so we'll break down the Masters and all that kind of stuff, but today, what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about reading lines, how to do it, what that all is, and we're going to go over picks and stuff like that. Again, this is what you can expect on the show. In future episodes and stuff, the bankroll builders and the challenges will be starting soon. All right, maybe next week, maybe the following week, I'll start doing those. But I want you guys to have a full understanding of kind of sports betting 101, understand what's going on in the sports betting world first, and then we'll hop into those because sometimes I'm going to be taking some alternate lines and some other things that I'll have to show you how to place. So we'll get into that coming up. But as always, the disclaimer. It's there. Legal team. Justice Jen is all over it. And the picks are going to continue. What's going on, Ron? What are the odds Tiger Woods makes the cut? That's a good question. Let me look it up. I can tell you what it is right now. But the picks are going to continue today while I'm pulling up what the odds are for Tiger to make the cut. Tiger to make the cut is... Be great if I could find it. It's down here quite a ways. Minus 174 are the odds for Tiger to make the cut. Minus 174. All right. So the picture going to continue today, obviously. Yesterday, we went 2-1 yesterday. Unfortunately, Nelson left a freaking hanging ball over the plate for Soto. I mean, I put it in the Discord. I could have hit that thing out of the park. That was terrible. So no run in the first inning there. Didn't cash, but UConn. Congrats to UConn on winning the NCAA tournament for the men. Dominant performance from start to finish throughout the entire tournament. They won every game by double digits. I told you guys yesterday I thought they were going to win by double digits again. Didn't want to touch the spread on that game for the full game, but I did think they were going to win by double digits. But our picks, both games cashed. So UConn first half spread looked a little dicey in the beginning. I'm not going to lie. UConn was missing a bunch of shots, but they got it done by double digits in the first half. And then I told you, Wager Me This had the team total over. I told you I liked it and had it on my sheet. But I saw that he picked it, so put it up there anyway. Gave him a little shout. But that one was sweaty. All right, I'm not going to lie. I was sitting there sweating that one out just because they were missing so many shots, taking bad shots, and they should have had 50 at the half. They could have put up, 90 in the game easily. They didn't. They put up 75, but as long as it was over 70, I didn't really care. They got the win, put up the points. So that brings our April record to 6-2 for positive 5.41 units. So good start to the month. I have 4 picks for you today. They will be at the end of the show, also in Discord as well. So we'll go over those in a bit. But let's talk about reading lines and what they mean. The topic of today's show. I'm going to break down what each line means and how do we read it, and then kind of how do you get value from that and a whole bunch of other things. So let's get into reading lines. What do you look for when you're reading lines? All right, so the sports books put the lines up there, and they're not just pulled out of thin air. Those numbers are based on quite a few factors. But you have to look at what do the numbers tell you. Okay, so you're looking at the numbers, and you're going to see what do they tell you. Now, I don't like to read books. I do like to read lines and read sports stuff and all that kind of thing. I'm not a big book reader. All right, if you guys know me, I can't tell you the last time I read a book. Just me. All right, I don't find any pleasure in it. But reading sports books, very good at. And reading lines at the sports book, that is what I like to do. So we're looking at what the numbers tell us. Is there value to justify what the odds are? And then how do they look across different sports books? So today, we're going to go over the lines. I'm going to show you how to compare different sports books without actually opening every single sports book to see what the lines look like. And then we're going to summarize it all to see what does it actually mean. All right, what does it all actually mean? I hit the wrong button. This is the button I need to hit. Here it is. All right, there we go. All right, so I have a sports book open, okay? And I've gone over this before. I have baseball up as an example since baseball's on right now. But right here, where you see the spread, okay? The spread is going to be the run line on the game. So in this example, the Padres would have to win by 2 runs or more in order for them to cover that. But you have the money line, which tells you who the favorite is and who the underdog is. All right, so minus is the favorite, plus is the underdog. If you need a more in-depth explanation of that, we went over it last week, so you can go check out that episode. So I'm not going to go super in-depth in it. And here's the over-under. All right, so reading this, what does it tell us? Well, it tells us that the Padres are favored over the Diamondbacks today. They're minus 152 on the money line. What that would mean is you'd have to bet $152 to win 100. All right. The reverse is true for the Diamondbacks. If you bet 100, you win 128. And it's also telling us what the over-under on runs is set at. So the over-under is 7. All right. So what is the sportsbook telling you? Well, the Padres should win this game based on the numbers. Does that always happen? Absolutely not. But based on the numbers, the Padres should win this game. How many runs should be scored? Well, right around 7. That's what you're looking at there. All right. Now, this is the same for, NBA. If I go over to the NBA, you can see the same stuff here. When it pulls up, again, you got the spread, right? You got the money line, and you got the total. So in this example, the Bucks are huge favorites, and you just watched the line move live with me. All right, you guys just saw that with me, right? 13 jumped to 13.5. All right, so that hook was incorporated there. Means some people are probably betting the Bucks on FanDuel. That's what that means. But Bucks are big favorites here. All right, that's what the sportsbook's telling you. The over/under is set at 230.5. So relatively high-scoring game with the Bucks being big favorites. All right, I'm gonna go back to over here. That's a quick rendition on how you're reading the lines, right? But we're gonna talk about what these lines actually mean in payout form. All right, so there's a formula you can use, all right, and I'm going to show you what that formula is. I actually have a spreadsheet that I use to calculate what it is. There's apps you can use. There's websites you can use. Whatever's easier for you. I have my own on Excel that I wrote. Nothing crazy, pretty simple formula. But using American odds, right, so that minus 152 plus 128, things like that. That's what I'm going to be using. There, you can write it for European odds, which are the decimal system. You can write it for fractional odds, which are like 9 to 5, 5 to 1, things like that. But American odds is what most of us are betting in, so that's what I'm going to show it to you in. All right. So for the favorite, you're going to take the favorite and you're going to divide. You're going to take 100, divide it by what the odds are, and then multiply it by the bet amount. For the underdog, you're going to take whatever the odds are, divide that by 100, multiply it by the bet amount, and boom, you have what the payout is on the bet. All right, so I will show you that right now. Go back to the MLB example. All right, now, technically speaking, you don't have to do this because the sportsbook will tell you what it's going to be, right? So if I put this in my bet slip, and let's say I'm putting $25 on this game, all right? It's going to tell me that I'm going to win $16.45, all right? But let's say your sportsbook doesn't have that, or you don't want to add it to the bet slip and you want to figure it out on your own. Here you go. You ready? Here's a calculator. I'm going to zoom in a tad here. There we go. All right, so you can see it. And we're going to go back to what the lines are. All right, so 152 and 128. So I'm going to take 152 as an example. All right, and you're going to put the odds in here. You don't need the minus sign. You're just going to put in 152, right? And we're putting in $25 on the bet. And you hit enter. All right. And boom, it calculates the payout. Again, I told you I made this so it would calculate it for me. It's the formula that's on this sheet here, right? So the favorite formula that's right there. It's all plugged in here, automatically doing it for me. It pays out 16.44.7. All right. And if we go back to the sports book, what was the payout? 16.45. Well, if you took this to 2 decimal places, boom, 16.45. All right, so that's how that is worked. The Diamondbacks are plus 128, so we'll put that in here. Right, same thing, $25. We'll hit enter, and it's going to pay out $32. Now, if I go in here and I pull this out, put 25 in, boom, 32. All right, you're going to ask me, why do you care? Because the sportsbook does it for you already. Well, you can use that to actually, and we're going to get into that in a minute, with probabilities and stuff, with the payouts and things like that. That's what you're going to use that for. Yes, the sportsbook can tell you, but if you don't want to use the sportsbook telling you that, you can, calculate it with something like this, or you can do a variety of different free websites and things like that to calculate the payouts. All right, but that's how you calculate a payout. Just want you to understand how it actually works. Because it's going to help us later down the line with getting value and determining what value is and things along those lines. So if you know how to calculate the payout, that will help you with that. Once you get more familiar with sports betting and you get more familiar with what the lines are, you can almost figure it out like that. So like when I'm betting in the sports book, right, I know what my bet is. I know what the odds are. I can roughly estimate what the bet's going to pay out without having to actually plug it into anything, but that's because I've been doing this for too long and I'm a degenerate. So yeah, but you'll see. All right, so determining value in lines. All right, so we went over the payout, right? And now we're going to talk about value, because value is not actually a monetary number. All right, yes, it is in terms of you putting money into the sports book, but when you're trying to find value in lines, if you're looking at the sports book, you're going to think every underdog is a value because you bet less to win more. Okay? However, not necessarily. All right? There is value on betting on favorites. There's value betting on underdogs. There's a lack of value betting on underdogs. Same thing with favorites. All right, so that's why I wanted to show you what the payouts are so you can understand that kind of stuff. And then we're going to go into now value. So simplified, what does value mean? It's a bet that pays winners at a better rate than it should. All right, so it comes into 2 different factors. There's implied probability, which is what the line gives you. All right, so that's why I want to talk about reading the line, because now we're going to use that line to get into what the implied probability is. Then there's the actual probability. And when you have the actual probability higher than the implied, there's a value play for you. All right, so how do you determine value in lines? And how do we get implied probability? All right, so I'm going to move my phone. My phone's blowing up. What's going on? Family group chat just popping off right now. So in short, implied probability is risk versus return. All right, and it's going to be formulas again. Sorry for the math lesson. Sorry for the slightly math-heavy show here, but this is how myself and other sports bettors decide what to bet on. I don't just sit here and look at a dartboard and throw a dart at the dartboard, all right? I don't just look at a line and be like, I'm jumping on this team. No, I run these numbers for pretty much every single sports bet that I place, all right? There's a few that I will not run it for, but the implied probability is a big part in my models. All right, so when I use my models, and we're going to get into modeling and stuff down the line, but my model gives me an actual probability, which I'll go over in a little bit. All right, when that number is higher than the implied probability, it's an edge for me. I'm betting on it. All right, so that's why this stuff is important, and that's why I wanted to explain it. And it all comes from what the lines are at the sports book. So the implied probability for a favorite is going to be the odds. You're not actually taking the negative odds, but you're taking the favorite odds, which are negative anyway, right? So minus 158. All right. So you're taking the 158 and you're dividing it by 158 plus 100, or 158 divided by 258. All right. For the underdog, you're doing the opposite. You're taking 100, dividing it by whatever the odds are plus 100. All right. And I'm going to show you what this all looks like in a minute. All right. So I'm going to go back to my share here, and there's the payout, and then I have the probability. I should probably change the title here. I think it's probability. Degen. Idiot. All right, here we go, right? So here's the formula, right? We're going to plug it in, and that's what we're going to get. So with the 158, the minus 158 that the Padres, or they're 152 now, sorry. The minus 152, right? We're going to take that, and we're going to plug it in here, 152, and we're going to hit enter. Again, I'm going to drop this down to like 2 decimal points, 3 decimal points, whatever. So that line is indicating that the Padres have a 60% chance of winning that game. All right? The Padres, 60% chance of winning the game. That's what this probability is referring to. So when the bookie puts out the line at minus 152, they're basically giving the Padres a 60% chance to win. All right? Now, the underdog is at 128, right? And that is going to result in, is it 128? It doesn't add up. Well, here you go. It doesn't add up. So, you have a discrepancy here. All right? Not saying that this discrepancy is a betting option, but it's showing you here that at 128, there's a 44% chance that the who are they playing? The Diamondbacks are going to win. Oh, you can't see that, can you? There you go. Now you can. All right, 44% chance that the Diamondbacks are going to win. What does this all mean? Well, given 60% to the Padres, how can you give 44% to the Diamondbacks? Well, that's what the line's showing. All right, now, when you have your models and you have this is implied, the models are going to give you what your actual probability is, and that's where you look for the edges. So let's say on my model, I had the Padres at a 67% chance to win today. Well, there's an edge there, right? There's a 7% difference between what my model has and what the book has. I'd be inclined to bet the Padres. On the reverse, let's say I had a 55% chance for the Padres. Well, the book is giving me almost 44%. So there's a slight discrepancy there, but that might be leaning me towards betting on the underdog or the Diamondbacks in this case. All right, I just pulled those numbers out of thin air. They're not actual model numbers, but here's what the lines are telling you. All right, I can do the same thing for another game, right? So the Cubs are minus 130 and plus 110. If I put that in here, 130, I don't want that, and 110, right? You have, again, there's a discrepancy here because the books always have an edge, right? I wrote that on this slide here. What does it all mean? The books are always going to have an edge. That's why you're going to have some of these probabilities up a little bit higher than actual 100%, because the books always have an edge and they're always going to be winning. The lines don't even out. If the lines evened out, these numbers would be perfectly even. All right. So if I put in at minus, you're not seeing my screen. If I'm at minus 130 here for the favorite, right, and I go to plus 130 here, if I could type, right, now you see this equals 100% exactly, all right? That's where the books have the edge, is because the probabilities aren't actually adding up to 100%. They're over 100% because of the vig, because of the juice involved in the bets. If they were perfectly even, you'd have a perfectly even implied chance. The lines aren't perfectly even because the book always has the advantage. So, as a sports bettor, you have to look to see where you have the advantage. and that comes into the implied probabilities and the actual probabilities. All right, so the actual probability, you can figure it out a few different ways, and I'm going to go over a couple of them. Again, models I'm going to go over at a later date, but there's two main ways to figure out what the actual probability is. All right, you and your assessment. Now, if you want to call that actual, that's why that's in quotes. You can do it. You say, heck, Padres look really good this year. They've been playing well. I think they're going to win. They've won this amount of games. I give them this percentage chance to win. Well, you're just pulling those numbers out, right? That's not actually where the numbers are coming from. You're just making them up. But maybe your gut is right. Maybe you're an avid baseball watcher. You watch every single game. You know every single player on every single team. You like the matchup and you think they're going to win. Well, all right then. There's your actual probability. The second and the more mathematical approach is the modeling. All right. And the modeling is really based on whoever writes the model and what the criteria they are looking for. All right. And you can write your own modeling, or you can pay somebody who has a service and they can write you a model with what you want, or you can subscribe to a service that uses a model and then you're going off what their criteria are. All right. So, for example, I have a daily fantasy model that I wrote for DFS. Okay. And don't worry, you will see all of that down the line when football season comes back around. But my DFS model, I play predominantly in point per reception leagues. And when I play those things, I play with PPR, or point per reception, right? So my model is based on point per reception, not on half point, not on 0 point. All right, I have three separate models. They work very similar, but my PPR model is when I'm playing in a PPR league. My half point is when I'm playing in a half point league. And the reason those things come into play is because of my criteria that I use. All right, so for example, in my PPR league, right, I factor in targets, receptions, percentage of plays on the field, number of routes run. I factor in the defense's ability to cover that specific position. There's a lot that goes into that actually spits out the number or the pick that I like. So that's the criteria that I choose. In a PPR league, right, let's say, I don't know, you like Cooper Kupp, right? He's a good example. He catches the ball a ton. Sometimes he blows up for yards, sometimes he doesn't, but he's a workhorse, right? He gets a lot of catches. In a PPR league, he's great, right? But if you're not playing in a PPR league and you're playing in a 0 point per reception league, maybe somebody else has an advantage because they get, 3 catches for 100 yards when Cooper Kupp's getting 10 catches for 80 yards. All right, so those things all factor in, and that's why with the modeling, you have to pick what you want to be your criteria, and that's what gives you the different probabilities. And ultimately, what works best? Well, it's kind of trial and error, right? You figure out what works best for you, what works best for your betting style, and what works best for how you actually want to place the wagers. Question here. Do you need a few weeks of data for your MLB model to be accurate? Yes, kind of. I'll tell you why. So if you want it to be up to date and current and really, really accurate, yes, you need a few weeks of data. However, when I have my models are all built off, past years of stats and results and things like that. The problem is teams change, right? So in order for your model to be accurate in like the short term and to be as accurate as possible, yes, you would need quite a few weeks of data in order for the model to be accurate. The thing is that even though you have that data, sometimes that doesn't always translate. Injuries happen. Can you factor in injuries to your model? I'll show you guys how to do that again at a later date. In my DFS model, I do have injuries factored in. I have positional rankings for players. So like, for example, on the Eagles, right? That's my team. But AJ Brown's their number one receiver. Devontae Smith is number two, right? So I have them ranked as number one and number two for the team. But if AJ Brown happened to get injured, well, then Devonta Smith would slide up to that one spot. So I'd have to tweak the model to be factored in there. So, long way to answer your question. Yes, you do need a few weeks of data for your model to be accurate for the season. If you're not necessarily looking at just this specific season and looking for maybe player props and stuff, you can go off historical data. It's not as accurate, though, as real-time data from the past few weeks. All right. What's after actual probability? All right, so line movement. All right, so we figured out, now we know what the lines mean, right? We know how to calculate a payout. We know how to calculate the odds behind the payout. We know how to calculate the implied odds from the sports book. What does that all mean? Well, now we're going to talk about line movement and where that can factor into different odds and different things like that. So I'm going to go over that. But I see a question. Is NFL easier to model than MLB? It depends. I'm more interested in NFL, so my NFL model is way more advanced than my MLB model. I would say yes, NFL is easier to model than NBA or MLB for two reasons. One, there's not as many games. All right, so with the MLB model, if you want to have it as accurate as possible, you're going to spend a ton of time updating said model unless you have a scraper that can pull whatever data you're looking for into your model from the internet itself. Otherwise, you're going to have to go in there and type everything in yourself. So if you have a scraper, it doesn't really matter. But usually you're paying for those, or you have to code one, and you have to be a relatively good coder to be able to code a scraper. I can't code a scraper. I don't know how to really. I've tried. It hasn't worked. So in short, yes, the NFL is easier to model than the NBA. But the thing with all models is it's really up to the person themselves. You can make the model as simple or as complicated as you want, right? The simplest model in all of sports is win-loss record. You can make a model literally based off of wins and losses. You can make a model of how many runs are scored. You can make a model of literally anything, and that's why I'm saying it's up to you to figure out what criteria you want in there, because a model like win-loss record is very, very unreliable in actually making bets, because it's going to tell you that whoever has the better record is the team to bet on. Well, I don't really need to model that to see who has the better record. But if I'm looking at, who's better against right-handed pitchers, and I want my model to show me that, well, that's going to take a little bit more work to be able to do. So, yes, I think the NFL is easier to model than the MLB, but again, it can be as complicated or as simple as you really want it to be. And if you guys are interested in like the modeling and how it all works, I can do like a whole week on models and show you how to code some of them. I will tell you, some of them are super simple. And then when you start getting into like my soccer models and some of my NFL models, they're very, very complicated. My soccer model probably has close to 50 hours worth of work before I even enter anything into it. There's probably like 50 hours worth of figuring out what I want to be my criteria. And then actually figuring out how do I get my criteria to spit out information that I can actually make a bet on. So that took me a lot of time. If I show it to you, obviously it's not going to take me 50 hours to show it to you and show you how to code it because I already did it. But again, it's up to you really how complicated you want to make it. So with line movement, right? We're looking at the odds, the spread, the total, what they're moving. Are they moving towards the favorite? Are they moving towards the underdog? They can be used to your advantage if you know what you're reading. All right, so that's why I went over what the lines are and using the implied chances and calculating the bet payouts, because if you know that stuff, then you can read line movement and read how lines move. So why do lines move? All right, they're going to move because there's a majority of public money coming in on a single bet, or there's big money from a select group, right? Which is also known as reverse line movement. Now, the thing with the public bets, you have to be careful because public typically bet favorites, so there might be some movement towards the favorite, and that's just because the public's betting on it. And I'll show you how to evaluate that right now. All right, so I'm going to flip over to this screen again, and I'm going to show you a website here for comparing odds and comparing lines and stuff like that. All right, so this is Odds Trader. Not affiliated with them in any way, just something that I use. This is a free website. Anybody can pull this up. This is not like a paid subscription or anything. I do have a couple paid subscriptions that I use for figuring out line movements and seeing other trends that you can't necessarily see on some of these sites. But Odds Trader, free to everybody. Here's what I use Odds Trader for. It tells you the line at every single sports book. That's why I like it, and what the odds are on that specific line, right? Also tells you what the line opened at and what it is real time. All right. So, for example, the Heat are playing Detroit tonight, right? The line opened at 11.5. Now you can see it just about every single sports book. It's 13 or 13.5, which means that money has come in on Miami. Is that enough to actually make a judgment on what the line is? No, Miami's a significantly better team. People see the 11.5 thinking that is a slam dunk. They start betting on it. The line starts moving. All right, that specific line there doesn't really want to give you any sort of line movement. Now, in NBA, it's hard. You have to be tracking line movement almost daily and hourly and almost by the minute. In the dungeon here, right, I have my setup with my sports stuff. I have my work set up over here more. And I have another screen behind this one that you can't see. That one typically has like a site like this open all day, or a site that I'll show you in a minute. And I'm literally watching the lines. Now, not necessarily at this point in time. When football season comes around, that is up 24/7. I'm watching what the lines are doing, watching how much money's coming in on certain bets, things like that. So this is a good website, though, to see what the line opened at and what the line is at different major sports books, right? So this example here with Miami and Detroit, not a very good example because the line is about the same and the payout is exactly the same. They're minus 110 pretty much everywhere. But if you look at Cleveland and Orlando, right, the line opened to 4.5. It's at 5, 4.5 depending on the book. But there's line differences, right, in the odds. So here it's minus 110. Here it's minus 106. Here you can get 4.5 at minus 115. Here it's minus 107, minus 110, minus 110. So if you're betting on Cleveland at minus 5, well, your best bet would be to go to FanDuel because they have the best odds on it at minus 106, right? Bet Rivers isn't that bad. But here, you don't have a super large discrepancy in what the payouts are. There are some lines in some sports books that you will find quite a difference across the bets. NBA, again, not the best example, but with the NFL, you can certainly find that. So I just wanted to show you this website. Again, this one shows you what the matchup is, what the line opened at, and then what the line is and what the odds are at every major sports book. So Odds Trader, one of the ones I use. Here's a great website that I use all the time, and this is what I spend a lot of my time on. I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you can see a little better. This is scoresandodds.com. Again, this is also free. No affiliation, no nothing with them. But here you go, right? This is the Heat and the Pistons game, right? Again, it shows you where the line opened. All right, it shows you the over-under where it opened up at, and now it shows you where it is. So you see that the spread's gone up, to 13 points, so it moved 1.5 points. But look at the under. The over-under moved to 218 from 221. All right, what this means here is that the spread has gone up because people are betting the Heat, but they're also betting the under. Now, why does the line move? Well, because the sportsbook has to cover themselves. All right. If there's so many people betting on the Heat, let's say, at minus 11.5, well, the sportsbook is going to get hammered and take a big loss if the Heat win by 11.5. So they're going to move the line to entice people to bet the other side. So they can kind of have 50-50 with bets. So to them, it doesn't matter. If they win or lose, they still profit. That's why the sports books are still in business. That's why lines move predominantly. All right. The cool thing about this website is if you click on game details, all right, again, it's going to show you what all the lines are at a lot of the different sports books. All right, so you can see what the lines are and what the odds are. But this also shows you the percentage of bets in on Miami compared to Detroit, and it also shows you the percentage of money on the bets. All right, what's the difference between the number of bets and the percent of money? Well, you could have a bunch of people betting Miami. All right, you could. No problem. They're all betting Miami, a bunch of low-time bettors, no problem. Let's say degen just wants to hammer the Pistons tonight. All right, let's say I went and put $1 million on the Pistons. I'm not saying that, but let's say I did. Well, this money would change here because they see the big bet coming in. So in this example, right, Miami is getting a large percentage of the bets and a large percentage of the money. That dictates the line movement. All right, so this one is not something where you're trying to bet with the sharps. All right, the sharps are the people who, go in and place a ton of money on a bet, and they usually have some kind of advantage. But here, the bets are coming in on Miami, the money's coming in on Miami. That explains why the line is moved. All right, but there's times where you'll see that the line moves in an interesting direction, even though the percentage of bets is on one team. Very common in the NFL. All right, where you could have a huge percentage of money on one team, huge percentage of bets on one team, but the money's actually on the opposite side. That's because you have big bettors placing money on the underdog or the favorite, whatever is the opposite of where those big bets are coming in at. All right, so just a cool website. Just wanted to show it to you. This is Scores and Odds. Again, this is what I usually leave up. NFL, obviously, there's no games, but they have the same exact thing, right? So for like the Chiefs and the Eagles Super Bowl game, they had what the spread was, the total, and then they had the game details now are going to be the actual box score. But you can see all different timestamps of when this line has moved. So this is why I also like this site. You can see it for the NBA too. So if I go back to the NBA, right, and I go to the Heat and Pistons game tonight, and you can see here all the different updates on the line movement, right? So you can see here that at 10:51 a.m. on the East Coast this morning, the line was at 12.5. Some money must have came in because the line at 11 o'clock, at 10:56, it's still the same, and then boom, jumps to 13, and the money line jumps up. That means, some money came in here, and you can track this all the way through and see exactly what's happening. All right? There you go. Line movement. Let's flip back here. Hopefully that made sense. If you guys have questions, feel free to put them in chat, and I'll address them. So understanding what the line movement is. Hopefully you guys kind of understand now what line movement is and how you can track line movement. But basically you're following the lines and you're seeing what happens. And the reason why I showed you the percentage of money and the percentage of bets thing is because of this second point here. With don't knee jerk because a line moved. All right, the line on the Heat moved, but a large majority of bets were coming in on the Heat, and a large majority of the money is on the Heat. Right, so there's no real line movement to really bet on there because a lot of the bets are there and a lot of the money is there. That's why the line moved. Again, Vegas has to cover themselves, right? But if you see the opposite of that, where you have a large percentage of bets on one side and a large percent of money on the other side, there is something you're going to want to look at. All right. And generally speaking, you're going to want to bet favorites early and you're going to bet underdogs a little bit later. Why? Well, the public generally bets on favorites, right? So as you saw in that example with the Heat and with the Pistons tonight, if you got the Heat at 11.5, well, now it's up to 13, right? So betting the favorite there worked a little bit better. If you bet them early, now you're going to have to give up another 1.5. Same thing with the underdogs. You wait to bet the underdogs because you assume the public is going to bet the favorite. So if you bet the Pistons early, you have a little bit less. You have a worse line than you would if you bet them now. Now that doesn't always happen that way. All right, there's times where the book just puts out a line and people don't agree, and then the line moves the opposite way. So that happens, but make sure if you want to understand that, generally speaking, you're betting favorites early, you're betting underdogs later. And happy I answered that question for you. If you make a line bet, does it lock it in? Yes, it does. Line is locked when you place it. Eric made a second big bet on UConn -7 before the tip. Nice win. I saw your comment on yesterday's video. Nice win. Congrats, sir. UConn, good pick. And then you can use line movements to actually hedge your bets or middle your bets, right? So we went over middling a couple days ago, where you're betting two different outcomes and you're actually hoping for the middle outcome. So let's say in tonight's example, right, you bet the Heat at -11, and now you're going to bet the Pistons at +13, where you're hoping the Heat win by 12 and you win both bets. That's not a great example of it because there's not much of a difference there. But last night, if you watched yesterday's show and last night, right, the UConn was -7. And I told you I thought they were going to get out to an early lead. And if you wanted to, you could bet San Diego State. I was watching the line. San Diego State dropped to like 15-point underdogs at one time. So you could have bet both sides and you would have middled there. Actually, you wouldn't have. But you would have been close. Anyway, whatever. So there it is. And if you guys have any good questions on that, put them in chat right now. I'm going to grab a drink. And then we're going to talk about today's picks. I told you I have 4 of them for you today. So I have 4 picks for you today. All right, here we go. If my screen wants to switch. There we go. All right, today's picks, they will be posted in Discord. So if you're not in the Discord, get in the Discord. All right, the picks will be posted there, but here they are and the reasoning why I like them. So 4 picks today, 2 2-unit plays, 2 1-unit plays. All right. 2-unit plays, I'm more confident in than I am in the 1-unit plays, but I like the over 2.5 in Brighton and Bournemouth today. If you are not aware, that is in the English Premier League of soccer. Let me go to this screen here. Here you go, right? FanDuel Sportsbook. You're going to go to soccer. Get that out of there. Don't need that. All right, if you go to the English, it's literally the top option here. You go to more wagers. And you scroll down here. Over 2.5 goals. Boom, there it is. All right, the line's at -138 now. I caught it this morning, I think at -1. What did I catch it at? 136. It hasn't changed much, but I like the over there today. The reason why I like the over is these teams have scored more than 2.5 goals in all of their previous, in 4 of their last 5 matchups. And they've been putting in a lot of high totals recently. So I like the over here. Again, we're going to need 3 goals in order for that bet to cash. So over 2.5 is what I like there. I like the Astros -1.5 on the run line. Here's what that looks like. So we go to baseball, right? The Astros, they've been hitting well, and I think Framer Valdez is pitching for them tonight. I like him to have a good outing and a long outing, even though it's going to be his first one. I do like him to have a nice outing tonight, and I think the Houston Astros get it done. Here is the run line, so we're taking them -1.5. They have to win by 2 or more. But Manning, don't like him much. Didn't have a good year last year. The thing with Manning is, and mind you, first start, right? First start of the season, Manning gets hit, all right? As a pitcher, he gets hit quite a bit. And as the first start of the year, look for him to get hit early, and then he's not going to have a super long night. So I think the Astros score early, and then they capitalize on it. I think Valdez has a good night pitching tonight. So I like the Astros on the run line at -1.5. I like the Rays team total over 4.5. All right, so the Tampa Bay Rays, if you look at their past few games that they've played, right? They played the Tigers twice. They put up 12 runs and 5 runs, and then they played the Nationals last night, put up 6 runs. I look for them to continue putting up runs, so I like their team total over 4.5. And then in the Coppa Italia, all right, I'm going to switch back to this screen here so you can see it because I'm going to go find it for you. We're going to go to soccer. All right, it's in the Coppa Italia. This is not in the Serie A. All right, so if you follow soccer, Serie A is the Italian league. That's not what we're betting on here. We're betting on the Italian Cup, basically. All right, so we're going to go to all leagues. You're going to scroll down, all the way down to Italy. It's going to come eventually. Here it is. All right, the Italian Cup. All right, Inter Milan is playing Juventus today. All right, the bet that I like is draw, no bet. What that means is if the game ends in a tie, all right, the game ends in a tie, you get refunded your money. So don't take these bets here. All right, this is to win for Juventus. This is a tie outright, and this is for Inter to win. I do like Inter to win, but I'm going with a safer option here because it's a cup match. It can go to overtime and extra time. All right, so I don't like Inter to win in regular time. I think they will, but I want to be a little bit safer here, so I'm taking tie, no bet, same as draw, no bet. So again, if the game ends in a tie, because it can go to overtime, so if it ends in a tie, you get refunded your money. If Inter wins in full time, we win. All right, so that's what I like there. And those are my plays today. 4 plays, 6 units total at risk. Again, we're up 5.4 units, so hopefully we have a good day today and keep the train rolling. Ron, I do follow MLS. There's no MLS on today. I don't think. Unless I'm out of my mind. It's the U.S. Open Cup on today. So, yeah, I don't bet on those. Those are garbage teams. Don't bet on that. But I do follow MLS. I follow MLS less than I follow European soccer and Asian soccer and South American soccer because the quality of MLS is dog crap, if you ask me. They're terrible teams. Zero skill. Back in my day of soccer days, I still play in like work leagues now and stuff, but back in my like prime soccer days, I probably could have walked onto an MLS team. They're really not that good. These players are not that good. There's some good players, but overall the quality's crap. So I don't bet a ton on MLS because the quality is terrible, and I hate watching it. But that's just my opinion. I like European soccer better. All right, those are your plays today. Hopefully everyone has a great Tuesday. Today is Mama Degen's birthday, so I will not be very active in the Discords and stuff tonight. I will get these picks posted here shortly for you. They're on the screen, obviously, now. You can screenshot them, but they will be in Discord shortly. But today is Mama Degen's birthday, so I will be with Mama Degen tonight and doing some dinner and some other stuff. Got a couple surprises for her. Got my brother coming in from school tonight. She doesn't know. So a couple of cool things. She's not watching the show. Don't worry. I know she's not watching because Mama Degen, we had to see her last night. Last night, she knew I had the UConn team total over, and she's sitting here calculating like how many points they need to score for the rest of the game. I'm sitting here like, Mom, it'll be what it'll be. Just don't even bother. And she's like, well, are they doing good? And I'm like, nope, they're under pace. She's like, what the heck? Like, they need to score. I was like, yeah, you tell them, Ma. You tell them. All right, so I will see you guys all tomorrow. All right, again, remember, Masters preview tomorrow. All right, breaking down the entire Masters for you on tomorrow's show. So if you're interested in golf or you're interested in seeing how golf bets work and things like that, I will show you that tomorrow. Thank you for the birthday wishes from Mama Degen. I will make sure she hears them later. Not going to tell her I said it on the show because I can't have her understand what surprises are coming. But when Beckham was on, the LA Galaxy fans were saying the rest of the team was weak. The problem, all right, we're going to get into a soapbox about MLS. Here's the problem with MLS, all right? The problem with the MLS is that it's low quality soccer and they try to bring big names in and then to build hype up around it because they don't have a ton of attendance. All right. So the soccer itself compared to like European soccer and other things, there's a huge gap. All right. This is why the US men's team is getting slightly better because they started using European players who play in European clubs who are way better than the MLS clubs. All right, but predominantly before the U.S. took players from the MLS and from other teams within the MLS or within like lower leagues, and they were terrible. Why? Because the soccer quality is bad over there. All right, if you take a team like Belgium, for example, on the national level, or you take like a France, right? They have their starting 11 plays in all top teams in top leagues. The MLS is a bottom level league. They're not a good league. All right, so that's why the quality of the soccer is bad there. But those big names start drawing more people. With more people coming in, then you may have some more bigger names coming in because they want to get paid more. That's why the quality's not great. But soccer mama degen, yes, mama went to all my soccer games when I was a kid. Yeah, the over did hit. It was over 70, so it did hit by 5 points. But I said it in the beginning of the show. UConn should have had 90 easily. They should have had 50 in the first half. I don't know what the heck they were doing most of the first half. They had a scoring drought in there. Not as bad as San Diego State's scoring drought, but you take a look at some of the shots they were missing, free throws they were missing. I was sitting here like, you got to be kidding me. The over did hit, luckily, but it was close. And I was sitting here and I'm looking at it. I mean, UConn was in the bonus with 14 minutes left in the second half. There's no way they should ever not hit that over. But they made it close. They made me sweat it out, but it hit. Yeah, Brazil, great example. Brazil, great team. You look at their starting 11, right? They got Neymar, who plays at PSG, which is one of the best clubs in France. You take their entire, most of their starting lineup. Vinny Jr. plays in Juventus. There's a bunch of guys on their team who play at top clubs, right? You take the USA team from back in the day, right? You had Landon Donovan playing at the LA Galaxy. You had Clint Dempsey playing for I don't even know who he was playing for at the time. Somewhere in Dallas, I want to say, maybe Chicago Fire. I forget who he played for. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Two good players there. But if you look at the rest of their team, right, they were all playing in MLS teams that were average at best. Quality. Here's today's play, guys. I hope you guys have a great Tuesday, and I will see you all tomorrow for the Masters preview. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.